Hello, Connective. Welcome back. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Subscribe, comment, and like without smashing anything. And let's get into this energy. This is a collective reading for Gemini. Gemini, I've already pulled your underlying and overlying energies. I got jumpers for those. We got one each of the Akashic deck for overlying and underlying energies. As soon as I get the energy cards to come out, I'll show those to you. And then for the underlying energy, well, for the other deck, the Universal Law deck, I have two overlying and two underlying energies, and of course they all go together. But Gemini, I can already tell you right now from the cards that are on the table that this reading is specific about expanding in a spiritual awakening. The cards all tie together and they're kind of talking about the same thing in different aspects a little bit. And there's already messages tied to a couple of these cards. And so, like I said, as soon as I get these to come out, we'll go through them one by one and I'll show them to you. But you're just being encouraged, basically, Gemini, to kind of like move forward. If you're aware that you are in a spiritual awakening, it's that possibility exists that you may have been a little bit fearful or hesitant about moving in the direction to kind of, I guess I was going to use the word culminate that. If you're not sure, if you don't know that you're in a spiritual awakening, but you somehow found this video, it's a possibility that you are, or you're about to discover that you are. Sometimes what happens is events happen in our lives that are very jarring, and it causes us to see things in a different way. It causes us to see more than just that situation in a different way. I'm just going to finish going through this one more time, and then I'm going to pull, I want to say 3 more cards here. Oh, okay. We're going to pull 2 more. And I don't even want to see what they are yet. So we're just going to put them here. And let's talk about the overlying and underlying energies for you, Gemini. So first of all, we have, it's the 6 of Scrolls out of the Akashic deck. This is the Sands of Time. This is kind of like it's time to get back to work card. And this, we're going to do the overlying and then the underlying energies because it's easier to explain that way. Cards go together kind of separately and together. So the law of Tithing is expand your consciousness and all things will be added. So this is the spiritual awakening part of this overlying energy in the way of, it talks about like when you expand spiritually 10%, you get it back 100-fold kind of thing, or you get pretty much kind of like the universe kind of opens up for you. And then this other card is the law of divinity. It says within you is the same source that created the entire universe. And this card talks about like being divided so that you can create like exponentially kind of thing. Being able to experience things from a divided point of view, being, for lack of better words, being like divine being and forgetting that, and being able to kind of go into yourself to kind of search for that. But it's also part of, as far as I'm concerned with the spiritual awakening, the discovery of knowing the difference, of realizing that there is a piece of God in you, if that's, like, again, of lack of better words, if that's how you want to put it. But to the point where you are like a piece of God and the thing that makes us all one. And it's one of these other cards are talking about that as well, being all one. I can't remember which one it is. But specifically telling you that they want you to increase your understanding, to increase a little bit of your effort, to put 10% of your time into it, and then, you know, watch what comes back to you. And then for the underlying energy, let's actually do the universal law cards first. So we have the law of correspondence. Now, this says, see life as the ultimate mirror guiding you to the highest version of yourself. Now, interestingly enough, this reminds me of a story that I heard today about, the person was talking about how people have been told that what they see in others is what upsets them is what they have in themselves that they need to work on. So in other words, like if you you know, really don't like bullies and you see someone as a bully and you don't like that you're really mad at the bully inside yourself. And he was saying that that's really that misguides people into trying to work on the wrong things within themselves, because just because you see it in someone else and you don't like it doesn't mean it's a reflection of your own behavior, your own characteristics. The mirror part of that is your response to it. So if you see a bully and then you see what they do, and then that your next reaction from that, if you decide that you want to like bully someone because you saw the bully do it, then that's the mirror that you should be looking at. Or just responding to the bully in general, how you respond. Do you completely freak out and take it too far? That's the thing that they're talking about. That's the mirror that you should be looking at. So he was saying that if you see something in someone else that you don't like, then that's something in someone else that you don't like. When you look inside yourself and you see your reaction of how you treat that person, or just in any behavior in general, that's the mirror that you should be looking at. And that's what this card is telling me right now. And then this is the law of gender. So this one says, embrace your divine masculine and divine feminine within. So this card might not be what you think either. This card is like talking about the difference between the masculine and the feminine energies, which we're all looking to balance. Whether or not we come off as more masculine or more feminine, we're always looking to balance these energies. And the way this card talks about it is when we're manifesting things, that the masculine is like the manifestation part of it and the feminine is like the creation part of it. So the two go together. If you want to manifest effectively, you want to use both that masculine and feminine, that divine masculine and divine feminine energy. Regardless of how you see things or how you identify or anything like that, this is something that everybody needs to look at. And that's probably going to come out now, what we just talked about, more in what we're looking at here. So I want to look at the cards from the energy deck that came out by themselves. Yeah. And then let me see what I pulled. Oh, wow. Okay, let's talk about this. All right. First one I saw was the Angel of Strength. So a lot of times I say, like, if people are on a spiritual awakening, like, angels show up. Usually I talk about light workers, but also empaths too. This Angel of Strength, all the angels go up at the top. And then we have the Magician in the Mirror. So again, with the mirror, this is my empath card. So Magician in the Mirror down here. I also saw a man holding a coin. So a man holding a coin, I always say it could be a man, could be a woman, could be holding anything. And with the man holding the coin, specifically with this law of gender, talking about the masculine energy being the manifestation, I feel like I got a feeling in the beginning, like some of the apprehension of trying to start to go into this process is like a fear of not being able to do it. And this is saying that, the masculine energy, your creation energy is there. You have it. You're ready to go. And this card is saying that feminine energy, to have courage, to have strength, to move forward with that manifestation so that you can create it. So these two cards are showing up for you. And then cornucopia, which I always say is everything. Everything's being offered to you. It's like showing up at a party and being able to have whatever you want. There's nothing in here that you wouldn't want. So this is part of what we're talking about too when we talk about the rewards of, coming into our spiritual awakening and opening up to things that, I was going to say our gifts, but it's not just about our gifts. A lot of times when we're trying to go through this process here, we're trying to deprogram ourselves. Let's say specifically with this man holding a coin, let's say it's specifically about money. We're trying to deprogram ourselves into thinking that everything is good and we know what we're doing, but we just don't have money, kind of a thing. And what ends up happening is 9 times out of 10, we have a belief that's holding us back, and it might even be something that we're aware of. It could have been something that came from our parents. It's something that we observed from them, and then we took it on as fact for ourselves. And we've been chasing this idea of how to make money this entire time. And it's the whole reason why we're still chasing the cornucopia. Meanwhile, a lot of times too, if we're empaths, we have stuff that we need to learn in this life. And before we can get those things, because we're not really set up to be mentally attracting of those things, because basically a lot of times our brain is getting in the way of the spiritual awakening. Part of it is like our ego and things that get in the way that kind of stunt our growth. I feel like one of these cards was even talking about that, about trying to move forward. And anytime we get stuck to the point where it's time for us to move forward, but for some reason we can't overcome whatever it is that is keeping us, let's call it fear, let's call it afraid. This card actually said there was no need to fear, that to use your time wisely. It didn't say time was running out, it just said to use your time wisely. And then this card talked about separation. This card talked about a happening that is caused, basically, it could be anything, but usually it would be something that needs to be divided, that the situation is played out. If someone's taking advantage of someone, or if two people are evolving in different directions, this lightning bolt is going to come and separate them. And then we have financial constraints. So this is one of the cards that I pulled. And financial constraints a lot of times too, again, come from our belief system of how hard it is to make money, or how hard it is to keep money. Or, you know, sometimes people just think that it's not for them. It could come in so many different forms, again, that you don't even realize that you're thinking that's your belief system. That's what's setting the tone for how much money you actually have or can keep. And then I also pulled the Temple Path, which is my spiritual awakening card. So that kind of tells me that some of you do know that something's going on. Even if you don't realize that you're awakening, you know something's going on, something's different. A lot of times what will happen is things that used to bother us don't really bother us anymore. We just realize that we don't care about it that much, that it's not that important, and we can sort of let it go without even really having any kind of like healing process or anything like that, and then kind of wonder why we can let so many things go all at once that used to be so important that are not that important anymore. And it's because you kind of see through your own eyes what you desire and compare it to what you've been doing in certain situations, and you realize that it's not even worth your time. This kind of stuff I feel like happens automatically. All you have to do is look at the situation or look at yourself and say, you know what, I don't really like this anymore. I'm not going to spend time doing this anymore. And then that's it. So let's pull Alice. I want to see, hoping I'm not hitting my microphone. I want to see what Alice has to say about this. Usually this would be like our interpretation or our perception of the situation, how we're looking at it. Some of us might know that we need to expand, that we've been either putting it off for a while, or we've had the notion to do something, however small it is, however small the meditation might be, or whatever the thing is that we wanted to do, light a candle, you know, and we just haven't been doing it. And you know, sometimes you kind of move forward anyway. It just, the terrain becomes a little tougher. You know, it's the reason why people tell people, well, there's a lot of reasons why people tell people to meditate. But it's because it helps you with the transition. It helps you talk to your higher self a little bit easier during times that are, you know, uncertain, or, you know, definitely I would say in situations where you're looking for answers, you know, where you're confused, where somebody might be telling you something that's not true. You're always, you know, the idea is to kind of look at yourself and see what you believe. And I was trying to figure out what came out and then popped back in again. I think it was actually follow your own good advice. So let's start with the one I saw first. So this one is never jam today. This is promises that never come to be, empty words, not living in the now. So if this is your spiritual awakening, this kind of looks like there's someone with you in any kind of relationship, really, but a lot of times I feel like love would be more prominent in a predicament like this. But this looks to me like the other person isn't necessarily waking up, but is kind of promising to what I call come with you. You know, again, to use the the example of meditating. Like if you're saying, hey, I just want to meditate 10 minutes a day, just sit and meditate 10 minutes a day with me, you know, and that person doesn't even have like 10 minutes a day to meditate with you. This is what I'm talking about, especially if they keep saying that they're going to do it. And you're waiting for them. You're not moving forward because you're waiting for them. You're like, oh, I guess we're not going to do this today. I guess we're not going to do this today. And so what's happening is tomorrow becomes tomorrow becomes tomorrow, right? And actually, we might as well get into this one, which is nonsense. So it's time to talk sense. So it could be also that if a person is promising to come with you and they're not making the effort, it's a possibility that they might be saying other things in the relationship that aren't true. I feel like I heard something similar to that. Oh, it was like, she was talking about a story about how when people try to make plans with you in the very beginning of a relationship, like try to act like, oh, you know, next year, blah, blah, you know, we're going to do this, we're planning this or whatever. And people think that, oh, this person must really want to be with me. This person's solid, you know. But she was saying that's a red flag. Like if somebody's doing that, they're more so talking than actually truly intending to do what they say they're going to do. And I feel like that's what this card is. But again, this is also promises that never come to be. So same thing. It's a possibility that the way it's happening in this situation is causing kind of like there's a double-edged sword to it, to where it affects two different things, or it affects you two different ways because of the way it's being done or what it's being done about. And then you have becoming braver. So again, you know, we're talking about the strength card and how, you know, it's a possibility that we might need to move forward without this person. There's nothing wrong with that. It's a possibility that that was always supposed to be, and the fact that it's kind of like what I said in the beginning, if we want to drag it out, we're going to get this lightning bolt, we're going to get this intense separation so that we can get out of these financial constraints, so that we can get to where we're trying to go, kind of thing, to what we're trying to get, you know, to who we are trying to be. And it's a possibility that we cannot do it with that person, we cannot do it around that person, either because they won't let us, or because they won't, you know, they'll either get in the way or just simply won't encourage us, which for some people could be the same thing. You might actually need some encouragement. I know in the beginning of my spiritual awakening I did. I just needed angels to come and tell me to keep going. So sometimes it is that way. And then this is follow your own good advice. Trust yourself. You know what is best for you. So again, this is what I'm talking about. If you're getting the notion to move in a direction that you want to go, and someone else is convincing you that that's not the direction you want to go, or that's not a good direction, that this card is telling you to follow your own good advice. You already know. And, you know, we might as well do this one. So this is laws, not justice, rules that are not fair. So a lot of times this too is us having to stop what our dreams are and our hopes are, but then watching that other person follow their hopes and dreams that have nothing to do with what we're trying to do or us. And then it takes us way too long to see that, because we're still being told stuff that's making us believe that this person is going to try, you know, is going to come with us. Is, you know, even especially in situations where the financial constraints might be, you know, they might be actually causing it, and they're supposed to be doing something to fix it or help it, but they're not doing anything. And then this is such a curious dream. So this is returning to reality, coming home. So I've said before about this card that I feel like, and believe it was this card, that people in certain cases, when they kind of get in their situations, I was going to say wake up and figure out that they're in a situation that they don't want to be in, and they start to change the situation by either, you know, honoring the change in themselves and behaving differently about it so that they get a different result, or just changing in general and having it be to where when they're looking at it, you know, they realize something about it that they don't like or shouldn't be. And it's the change itself is not like a newness of yourself, a realization that changes you. It's like a realization that brings you back home. What card wants to get away? Okay. Make time for self-love. Last quarter moon in Libra. There might be a Libra involved, Gemini. You know, this is part of follow your own good advice, but make time for self-love is kind of telling me that that there's certain things about this situation that you should care more about than the things that you care about that are keeping you in this situation. It's kind of like if you're let's just use a light example of being ignored, but say you don't want to be ignored, right? You're at a point where you're really almost tired of being ignored and you kind of want to be around people who aren't going to ignore you, kind of thing. You know, that card is basically telling you that to honor your feelings more than that person that is ignoring you, kind of thing. You know, to love yourself more than you love them. But it's not even about like how you feel about them. That's a lot of cards. Let's see what's going on. It's not even really so much how you feel about them, but you know, it's more of about loving a part of a situation that you're moving towards rather than loving that situation that you're in enough to just stay in it. And then, so we have full moon in Cancer, let your fears dissolve. Here we are again, telling you let go of your fears on the table. So there might be a Cancer involved. Then we also have last quarter moon in Cancer, take a breather. So some of you guys really might have to look at the situation, take a step back and look at the situation for what it is in order to really see what it is, especially if you're being told something that's totally not true about what the situation is. And again, you need to follow your own good advice. Take a look, love yourself more than the situation that you're in to see, hey, I don't want to go through this. Why wouldn't I honor that? And then follow your own advice about either how to get out of it or just trust yourself that the decision that you're making is correct. Because again, law is not justice. Just because it feels wrong for you to be moving in a direction you want to go doesn't mean it is. And then we have first quarter moon in Taurus, release control. So this card is kind of telling me that, you know, in certain situations, sometimes I feel like there's something else I thought about this morning too, about relationships, about how sometimes we think we have control of a situation, so we stay in it, but we really don't. And so we think by staying in it, we're holding some kind of control. Meanwhile, chaos is happening. And it's just one of those things where it just reminds us that we need to let go of the idea of having control of the situation and just release it all together. Release the control that we're trying to have. So we have Cancer, Taurus, and Libra on the table. And then we have first quarter moon in Libra on the table. Keep your heart open. So usually I kind of back the story up and say, oh, this person is in the beginning of, you know, this situation. But I feel like this card is saying for like an ending, because this lightning bolt here is an ending for a new beginning. I feel like this first quarter is like the new beginning. Keep your heart open. Don't let this situation that's happening get you to the point where you don't want to move forward with anyone else, because there's someone out there that's better suited for you, that's not going to talk nonsense and make empty promises. And that's just here before we even get into laws, not justice. And especially, like we said, if you're the empath and that person's not waking up and they're using that to kind of do whatever in the relationship won't be extremely fruitful or profitable. The universe is not going to continue to let that person hold you back. And then that's why we have the lightning bolt. And then we have first quarter moon in Virgo, assess the situation. Again, what I was saying about look at it, see it for what it is, and then make a move. And then we have last quarter moon in Leo, lighten up. So a lot of times with spiritual awakenings, we talk about lightening up. We talk about being lighter. It's part of why we can't move forward sometimes, is because the person that we're with is either very heavy or they're causing a heavy relationship, a heavy situation that we're sitting in. And naturally, we're going to lighten up, and then that situation is going to no longer become compatible with us. So Gemini, I'm actually ready to see the blind spot. I'm ready to pull it in the extended. If this is your reading, the link will be in the description. You know, the only other thing that I can really say about, you know, if you're not coming with us to the extended, is that your intuition, what you're being told, is most likely accurate, even if everyone around you doesn't think whatever ideas that you have. And I'm talking about moving forward in a spiritual awakening. I can't speak for everything. I mean, I specifically see spiritual awakening on the table. So for the advice that you're getting for yourself in order for you to move forward, or what you want to do, is accurate advice. Anybody else, especially if they're not having a spiritual awakening, they don't know what you need to do or not need to do, or what you're going going through or anything like that. So you need to just take a step back, think about what it is that you want, what direction you want to move, and then follow your own good advice. And sometimes these things happen anyway. When you're in a spiritual awakening, I mean, you might be able to stop it, but I don't think in all situations that can be done. And I think in some situations, based on what I see, someone might just be putting it off and not really stopping it altogether. So keep that in mind when you know that your time, that you need to use your time wisely, because that feeling, and when it doesn't go away, then that feeling is there for a reason. Again, your intuition is telling you. You've the spiritual awakening. Everybody's on one. So even if you weren't on a spiritual awakening, you've already started it. So just keep in mind to follow your own good advice, and to not necessarily listen to others if it's not aligning with what your feelings are telling you, with what your gut is telling you. If somebody tells you to do something or says that something's a good idea, and instinctively your first reaction is that you don't want to do that or that's not a good idea, then again, follow your own good advice. Don't listen to others. And for those of you that are coming to the extended, the link will be in the description. And then, for those of you who are not, until we meet again.